Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, and we are talking Big Ten football today. Tune into the Big Ten Huddle for all of your Big Ten football, basketball needs, everything going on here at the Big Ten Huddle. We cover it all. We cover every single team, news, rumors, opinions, whatever it might be. Me and my co hosts, we always are covering the Big Ten. We have live shows, we have single videos that just kind of cover one off topic. So go ahead, like and subscribe if you are a fan of the Big Ten, or even if you're not a fan of the Big Ten, you just like to get good in depth analysis and news of what is going on in the Big Ten. Today, we are going to be talking about the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is a huge game that is coming up against Ohio State and Oregon, obviously, and there are some rumors going around about this game. This game that could potentially decide the national championship. I've said this on the show. I feel like this game is going to decide the national championship. Whoever we get out of this game, I do believe is going to win it all. These two teams are facing off now, and you watch it. The odds of whoever wins this game is going to skyrocket atop the odds to win the national championship this year. I know it, you know it, everybody in college football knows it. Obviously, college football is a crazy sport. Anything could happen. A team like Texas, Georgia, whoever, Notre Dame, whoever else, Penn State could come up and win it all as well. But the most likely winner is coming from this game. These are two top tier teams facing off. They had the regular season showdown, which was an instant classic. It was an amazing game. But this game right here could be even bigger. Actually, it is going to be even bigger because, like I just said, the national champion is most likely going to be decided in this game. And we have some rumors, some swirling coming around after the media day leading up to the game that we're going to get into. And that rumor is, does Oregon have the flu again going into this playoff game? And I say again because if you haven't been following it, maybe you've not been reading the message boards, the rumors and stuff like that. Oregon, there were rumors that Oregon had the flu against Penn State, and that was one of the reasons why that game was so close. So if true, that game and this game, this could be a huge thing, right? This was such a closely contested battle before that Oregon did not play up to what many people thought Oregon could play to against Penn State. And the reason for that many people gave was the flu. Well, Oregon is going to have to be at full strength in this game against Ohio State. You remember last game, they won by 1 point at their stadium against the Buckeyes. Now, these are not the same teams. We've said this on the show multiple times. These teams have changed. Oregon has Jordan Birch back. Ohio State has a couple injuries on the offensive line that has changed things, right? Oregon has grown and gotten better. They didn't have Tez Johnson for a little bit. Tez Johnson is back. He did play in the previous game. But this is not exactly the same game that it was before. It's a neutral site. Oregon has some players back. Ohio State has lost some players. And so this is going to be a very intriguing game to watch play and to try and figure out what's going to happen. Because the last game, like I said, it was an instant classic. To me, it was the best game of the college football season. You had 7 lead changes. You had like 8 touchdowns in that game. There were risky coaching decisions made by Dan Lanning that paid off for him, makes him look like a genius. And some of those he'll tell you, yeah, I mean, the 12 men on the field, that was me. And then other ones he'll tell you, the onside kick thing, yeah, maybe we didn't exactly play it that way, but hey, we stole possession. And many people were critical of Ryan Day for the way he handled things at the end of the game. And so you have Ryan Day, who's I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about, a little bit on the hot seat in this one, but you feel like he kind of redeemed himself in the Tennessee game a little bit, so he's not going anywhere. But there are definitely fans in Columbus, Ohio, that are upset with him right now. And so there's coaching narratives galore. There are so many things going into this game. Can Dan Lanning defeat Ohio State twice after losing to Washington twice last year? Can Dan Lanning win himself a playoff game, which he has never won in his career? Is Ryan Day going to come out and win this playoff game where he's looked his best at times, right? Maybe not the first season in 2019, but a lot of Ohio State fans would tell you in 2019 against Clemson, they should have won that game. And so Ryan Day has looked good in the playoffs. You think of Tennessee, you think of Georgia 2022, you think of Clemson 2020. in the playoffs, he's looked good. It really, the only postseason game that Ryan Day didn't do a good job in was that Missouri game last year, which was stuck in people's minds, but I think it's pretty much out of people's minds now because of what happened in the Tennessee game. But overall, this game against Oregon and Ohio State in the regular season, it was not just one of the best games of the season because, like I said, it was one of the best games. It was the best game in my mind. This was one of the best games we've seen in the past 2 or 3 years in the regular season, right? And it's now leading us into this Rose Bowl matchup. Who will the winner, most likely go on to be the favorite to win the national championship. But let's talk about this flu rumor, right? How did the flu rumor start? Where did this kind of originate from? Because if we're going to analyze if it's true or not, we have to figure out where it came from. So obviously, Oregon surprisingly had a little bit of a struggle, especially on defense, against Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. They gave up the most points they have the entire season, 37 points. They gave up 31 to Ohio State. They gave up 34 to Boise State, but Penn State being the team they gave up the most points to. Now, Penn State does not have a bad offense. We've seen Penn State have a good offense this season, but that's not what they're known for, right? They're not really known for their perimeter talent. They're known for Tyler Warren and how good he is, a backfield with very good duo of running backs that had a great freshman year, but they've not really lived up to that since. And so there's some people that doubt them. But if you follow me, you know I respect that backfield a lot. Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton, and what they're able to do. But for Penn State to put up 37 points, like I said, the most points given up by Oregon this year, it was perplexing to a lot of people. And so now with Oregon coming into this game, the flu rumors are beginning to circulate again with Dan Lanning coming out in the press conference after practice back home locally with the local media, with him coming out and having a very raspy, kind of gone away voice. But it wasn't just him. It was Taj Lapoy, the defensive coordinator. I hope I'm saying that right. If not, please correct me in the comments. But Tosh Lapoy, he came out and he had the raspy voice as well, which had some speculation, but anybody who's been around a football team long enough knows you're going to get after it. You're going to be yelling. You're going to be aggressive, especially in a game like this leading up to this, right? And Dan Lanning's an aggressive guy. Dan Lanning is not a guy that in practice is just going to sit there quiet. And I mean, everybody can kind of know that from his demeanor and what he does. But still, it was something that fans were thinking about. But it was pretty quickly push to the side, right? Like, he's just being aggressive in practice, yelling a lot, maybe loses his voice or whatever, but, he's probably just being aggressive in practice. Well, I mean, football coaches, they lose their voice all the time, right? Yeah, maybe sometimes, but still, this is something that is not uncommon for football coaches to lose their voice, maybe get a little carried away with the yelling and stuff like that in practice. And so it's not a coincidence, but it was enough to spark the rumor in the beginning. Well, the rumor resurfaced this week leading up to the Rose Bowl when Oregon arrived in Pasadena. Dan Lanning and his coaching staff seemed better, but the fans noticed that Dan Lanning did have a little bit of discoloration on his face and his eyes were red as well in the media days, which led people to believe, his voice is better. But is he feeling well? Is he doing okay? Because his skin is a bit discolored and his eyes are a little red. His voice had improved, but fans speculated that the redness might be a sign of illness as well. And that the players as well were not as widely available as the Ohio State players. Some media were rumoring as well. Now, this was not an intentional rumor put out by the media. I think it was just kind of media talking and media being on Twitter making some comments. But this became something that fans kind of ran with. Oh, is Oregon hiding their players? Or does Oregon have 6 players that they don't want the media to see and they don't want the media to talk to? Are they blowing their nose constantly? And so the media could notice that and try to talk about that and figure that out. And so the rumors with the media and Ohio State and the players were so much more visible and available to the media, while Oregon players were kind of kept discreet. The rumor was they were kept discreet, which was fueling more suspicion. This led to the theory, like I said, that Oregon was hiding their players who might be sick. Now, here's my analysis of the situation. I'm going to give you my thoughts on if I think it's real or not. Breaking down these flu rumors, I think this is unlikely. I think these flu rumors and Oregon having the flu and all this stuff, this is unlikely. No, Number one, because this is just rumors on top of rumors on top of rumors, and this is, oh, well, this happened a month ago, so maybe it could happen now, which is unlikely that it would happen then. I mean, sickness, especially the flu, typically runs its course much faster than a month, right? I mean, I have children in my home, and so sickness does kind of linger, but that's also with children, right? I mean, it's unlikely that a team would be affected by the flu after dealing with it during the Big Ten championship a month ago because these Oregon players are young, they're healthy, they have good immune systems, making it unlikely for the team to continue to struggle a month later with passing this flu around, especially with players getting it again, right? You get the flu, you kind of get the immune system, and then you don't really get it again. That's one of the beautiful things about getting sick is you kind of have a better immune system. Maybe you don't get sick again as quickly. And so where do I think this kind of came from? I think the media access or the appearance can easily be misconstrued on the lead up to big games. I'm not blaming the media by any stretch or anything, but I think media, obviously, they're wanting to get this information out there. They're wanting to see people and their reactions, get people's reactions so that way they're viewing it more. And so the thought process, the talking of, oh, I haven't seen as many Oregon players as I've seen Ohio State players. And I mean, just looking at both sides in the media, because if you only follow one side, you're probably just going to look at the Ohio State side. You're probably just going to look at the Oregon side. But me being somebody who's following both sides on this, there was plenty of access to Oregon players. There was plenty of access to Ohio State players. Now, fans are certain. Let me say this first. Oregon is known a bit more for being cautious with the media than I would say Ohio State is. And this oftentimes comes from the mentality of the coach. If you watch a Dan Lanning press conference and you watch a Ryan Day press conference, Ryan Day is much more inviting to answering questions and kind of continuing to give details, working well with the media and stuff like that. I mean, Dan Lanning, if you watch his press conference, I'm not saying this is good or bad, this is just the way the two coaches operate. But he's kind of like, well, I'm not going to tell you that. Or he gives you a short answer like, yeah, Dylan Gabriel's really good. We really like him. I mean, that's just kind of the way Dan Lanning is, right? And everybody knows that a team will often take on the persona of their coach. And so if Dan Lanning is somebody who's kind of short, not really super inviting to media, players are most likely going to be like that as well. Not all of them. Terrence Ferguson was very inviting to the media for Oregon. And like I said, it's not necessarily bad or good. I'm not pointing Dan Lanning out as being a bad guy. I think, if you can stray away from the media, that's kind of a good thing at times, but also giving into the media and, giving them some more to talk about can also be a good thing too. So I think there's good and bad on both sides. But at the end of the day, this is fans searching for any potential edge, storyline, or hope for their team in this game. You think about it from the Ohio State side. Ohio State needs this game really, really bad. Oregon has come into the Big Ten, won it their very first year. Oregon doesn't really have a recruiting. I mean, this is something that maybe the casual fan doesn't notice as much, but if you follow it more, you see it. Oregon doesn't really have a recruiting base in the state of Oregon. It's just high school football there is not necessarily as big as it is other places. Not saying you can't get players at all. It's just not as big as obviously Texas or Florida or Georgia or even the state of Ohio. And so what Oregon is starting to do now is they're starting to go out to the Midwest, especially Ohio, and trying to bring some of those star players from Ohio out to them. Worked with Trey McNutt. Props to Dan Lanning and that coaching staff for doing a great job recruiting. I mean, obviously, hats off to them. You can't give them any more props than that. But notice these rumors do not stem from the media, right? This isn't the media putting stuff out there of like, wow, Dan Lanning kind of was blowing his nose a lot. Right? This is stuff that's coming from fans. And if you've been able to get on message boards, if you've been able to read kind of what the media is saying, which I understand not everybody is able to do because not everybody pays for that stuff. I do, and that's one of the reasons why I do these videos is because I do see some of the stuff that maybe other people aren't able to see. Ohio State media has been very much so kind of behind the scenes like, guys, Oregon players are fine. Like maybe they're not as, inviting or engaging with media, but they're not like rolling around on the ground looking like they're just miserably sick the entire time. And so, I mean, Oregon, they could be taking extra precautions, simply focusing more on preparation than media engagement, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, these rumors just feel like rumors on top of rumors to me. It doesn't feel like anything real. And at the end of the day, there was a rumor last time that was real leading up to this game. And it's nothing like that one. That rumor being Jordan Birch getting injured in practice. I believe it was on a Friday or a Thursday, possibly. I think it was on Thursday. I don't think they would practice that hard on Friday. But him possibly getting injured, right? That one you saw media going into and talking about right away. Oh, I'll check on that. Oh, I'll figure that out. This one, you don't see that, right? You can kind of get a sense when you hear these rumors and talk about them. This one is not being dealt with at all the same way the Jordan Birch one is. This is not one that media is like feeding into, because the media that has their boots on the ground there can see that the Oregon players are just fine. They react differently to media than Ohio State does, which again, not good or bad. It is what it is. But this is mostly a narrative that just adds fuel to the high stakes of the game, highly anticipated Rose Bowl matchup that's going to be great. Regardless of the rumors, fans should expect an exciting, hard-fought game, Ohio State versus Oregon. These flu rumors are unlikely. What is likely is that this is going to be a fantastic game. End this on a high note, right? Like, let's look at this game. Let's not look for the flu. Let's not look for the rumors. Just enjoy the game and how special this game is going to be, because it is going to be special. This is going to be a fantastic game against two fantastic teams, two of possibly the best teams in the nation. If you enjoyed this video, I'd encourage you to like and subscribe. That helps out the channel a lot. If you have thoughts, please give them in the comments. I do my best to go through as many of these comments and respond and stuff like that as I can. If you are a rude person and just say, JR, you're stupid and I hate you and you look stupid, I'm not going to respond to you, just because I don't feel the need to try and defend myself for looking stupid. But if you are somebody that has a thought that you would like to give in return, and maybe you have a analysis that maybe I missed out on, or maybe you know more information that I missed out on, please, in the comments, add that to the discussion. And if you are somebody who watches this video, please do at least go through the comments and see what other people have to say as well. I believe that we learn our best from talking and being amongst one another. And I do want the Big Ten Huddle to be a community, someplace where we can engage with one another, we can talk, and I do invite you to do that. Like and subscribe. Definitely appreciate it. Check us out on let's see, when is the next show? Thursday, maybe, because there's a lot of basketball on Thursday night. Definitely Sunday night will be our next show. We'll update you on the YouTube feed and stuff like that. But check us out on our next show. Football, basketball, we're covering everything. We'd love to have you there. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Have a good one.